So let's see here. You have something listed here, PUBG sale. You're gonna have to elaborate.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned last time about my whole Warzone experience that I'd like to try PUBG, but I don't want to spend 30 on it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's on sale for 20 right now, but I'm still going to wait because again, historically it's been free on PS Plus and I think it's been even lower than 20.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to wait. Um I'd still like to check it out. And as far as Warzone, I made a note here, a sizable update. Every time I've turned on my PS5, I keep getting an error message saying that I need to free up more room because there's an update. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, man. I have like no games installed on the PS5, and I still have to delete something to make room for this goddamn update.
Oh my
And I'm like in
god.
protest mode right now. Like I won't do it. Like, and I know that I might have to because my buddy at work is like, "Hey man, when we jamming again?" I'm like, "Shit." I was hoping you'd forget. So never Mondays for obvious reasons. We do the show, and then usually after the show, I check out for the night. But I know he wants to play tomorrow, and I kind of hope that I can play without doing the update
Mm.
because I don't want to delete a game, and
Well,
I don't want to do it out of principle. Like I got Skyrim on there installed, and I could probably easily uninstall that because I'm not really going back to that. But it's the principle, Drew. I want Skyrim to be on my hard drive because at any moment's notice, I might want to be a vampire lord and I don't want to wait to do so. I want to be able to do it on my own accord, and I don't want to delete one of my most beloved games
oh
for a
my
game that
god.
I mostly hate. So
I
that's kind of
mean,
my rant on Warzone.
can you do like a hot swap kind of thing where you uninstall an app just to get the download installed and then reinstall your game? Sometimes sometimes the install packages are so much larger than the actual content that it's like you need temporary files to install, and then once the installation's done, you don't need that much space anyway.
I'll tell you what's even, what grinds my gears even more, Drew, is like I can't get the notification to go away. So it's like every time I hit the home button, there's like a little red
Uh,
notification that says, hey, you got to do this. And it's every day. I cannot get it to go away. So
oh man.
I might either have to do it and delete something or just delete the entire game. And then tell my buddy at work, like, hey, man, my internet's down. I just can't do it. Or I tell him the truth and say, listen, man, I want to play with you, but we're not going to play this game anymore because I refuse to do this update.
I wonder if
It's just ridiculous though how many gigs these games take up, man.
did Sony ever open up the external hard drives to this PS5 yet?
I think, but don't quote me on that either.
I'm looking it up now because I know
Lying
they
there.
said it's compatible, but I don't know what you can do with a formatted USB extended storage drive. You can store PS5 games. All right, so in order to play a PS5 game, it actually needs to be on your internal SSD. So Skyrim, I'm guessing, is PS4, right?
Yes.
So you can play it from a USB drive.
Yes.
I will share you the official line from Sony, and
Please do.
if anybody in the chat is interested, there it is as well too. Um, so basically, you could store PS5 games and PS4 games. You can play PS4 games directly from USB extended storage, which lets you save space on your PS5 console for PS5 games. If you want to play a PS5 game, you need to copy your game data from your USB extended storage drive back to your PS5 console's internal SSD. They say it's actually quicker to copy. Okay, so this is normal. It's quicker to copy a PS5 game from USB to than it is to re-download it. Um,
I kind of want to raise a question on this now
hmm.
that this is, I mean, it's technically not one of our topics for this evening, but what are your thoughts on hard drive sizes that come with these consoles? Do you think they're too small, or do you think that more people should be comfortable, like I am, having a small amount of games installed and not having to worry about deleting a game to reinstall another? Because generally speaking, I
Hmm.
don't mind operating that way. I'm just being stubborn about Call of Duty right now, but in
Right.
normal cases, I'm fine having just a select amount of games that I'm playing, that I'm
Hmm.
rotating, versus the gamer that says, hey, this hard drive's too small because I want to have 40 games installed at once. Like,
Right.
what's your take on this?
I mean, realistically, um, I think this is a tough question. I'm glad you asked it. So just to kind of acknowledge what Vic is saying in the chat room, it's he's saying that it's dumb that you can't just play it off an external HDD, and I said to him that the Series X operates in a similar way. He's saying it's because he wants you to buy their proprietary hard drives. And there is some truth to that, but I think it's also important to recognize that the hard drives that are in the PS5 and the Xbox are faster than a lot of PC drives. They're faster than a lot of the hard drives that are on the market. So I understand the restriction. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think it's important to understand that there is a technical separation between what we used to do and what we can do going forward. Saikoro mentions why not just play it off of a disc, and yes, you have a digital PS5, right? Those that have a Series S, that's all digital as well too. I am 100% behind physical media, but we are losing that battle. Sooner or later, physical media will not exist, for better or for worse, and that's a whole nother debate. I've made it clear which side I'm on, but the reality is, sooner or later, these systems aren't going to have a disk drive. Full stop. So
You're absolutely right.
So that does kind of bring us back to your question. And I mean, think of it this way, right? Like I have a 1 terabyte Xbox Series X. And at the moment, I have a mixture of current games and older games. A lot of the games that I play, because I do a lot of indie gaming, I have the ability to have quite a few games on there. I don't know how many it is right now, but I'd say probably 20-ish if I had to guess, because they all tend to be smaller games. But then I look at a game like MLB The Show, which is a AAA title, and it's probably taking up a quarter of my hard drive. I haven't looked at the stats on it, but I know it's a big ass game, right? It's going to be taking up a huge chunk. Hitman, another prime example, takes up a huge chunk of space. And then I have like Narita Boy and Dungeon of the Endless and Planet Alpha, and these games are like barely 2 gigs. So it's it's kind of a weird dichotomy between these two things. I will say that by having limitations on how much space I have, it does force me to make choices to what's currently installed on my system. So if I decide that I want to play a different game, I'm going to have to uninstall something. And the Xbox does a pretty good job of showing you what you played recently and what you haven't. I think the PS5 does as well, too. At least the PS4 did. Kind of had everything lined up in an order where the games that you haven't played recently are kind of down the right side. The Xbox kind of puts them down at the bottom of a list. So it's easy to see at a glance what you haven't played in a while. The Xbox takes it to the next level and actually tells you, hey, you haven't touched this in more than 30 days. And if you go in, there's a spot in the OS where you can free up space, and it'll specifically highlight certain games that either have large DLC, maybe you haven't played them in months, whatever the case is. It tries to make it easy for you to quickly discern where you can kind of trim the fat.